Hey folks, JD here, and today we are looking at a comparison between the 628 Dream and the Skytech. So, both of these I am big fans of. As you can see, there are some subtle differences. They are both folding quadcopters, but as you can see, the Skytech does have foldable sprigs, whereas the Dream just has these little sort of rubber bungs underneath it. So they both do have cameras, they both have roughly the same features: automatic takeoff, automatic landing, FPV, as well as altitude hold. So I thought today this would be a pretty good video to see which one does come up in trumps, and also because they do have 3 speeds. So I thought I would be taking them up and pushing them straight onto speed mode 3, as we do have a bit of a blustery day here today. Wind speed coming in at about 6.5 miles an hour. So there we are. So I thought what we'd do first, we'd take up the Skytech first, as we've recently taken up the Dream. So without further ado, let's take to the skies. Okay, so here we have it. So we have the Skytech first. I really am a fan of this copter. Let's first of all use the automatic takeoff and landing in order for us then to take off. So hopefully, there we go, up we go. And off she goes. Now this copter really is nice. I think the reason I like this one so much is because it was the first folding quadcopter that I ever flew, which actually could deliver on the fact that it could fold up, it was nicely pocket or bagged sized, and you could still have a really good flight out of it as well, rather than it just being a folding copter that could do nothing else. So, and to be honest, it's still delivering on that. I mean, this is now a few months old and I've used it a lot. And yeah, it's still really good. It's still really stable. I mean, look at the way it corners, look at the way it flies. I mean, turning it is just a breeze. It takes a couple of seconds either direction. She's turned and then she's coming back to your direction. If I was to turn her half at a time, she still turns really well. Turns around. I mean, the bad thing I've got to say about this is that the FPV, as with, you know, nearly all toy grade quadcopters, not all but nearly all, the FPV is really shockingly bad. But in saying that, you do get a nice visible picture with the FPV. It's just not up to the, you know, not up to a very high definition standard. So just excellent. Just really such an excellent little copter. Flying back and forth, no troubles whatsoever. I mean, even if you wanted to just put her on a little bit of throttle and just kind of fly her at the breeze, just so that she kind of battles a little bit, it can do it. You know, such a good little copter, this guy. And obviously powerful, you know, in high mode. In low mode, obviously not. Very good for beginners in low mode because she is still extremely stable. With the barometer as well, I found that this barometer does sense really well and doesn't overreact. Now what I mean by that is a couple of barometers and a couple of very cheap quadcopters might be different, I don't know, but they certainly give the impression that they are, just because whenever you go to hover them, sometimes they kind of stutter back and forth and do this kind of motion, whereas this guy doesn't. He just kind of sits quite nicely and is really happy to just sit around hovering all day. Alright, that was the beep. That is the first battery is down. So I'll keep her going for a little bit, but just so much fun. And because she has proper landing sprigs as well, which fold, it does mean that when you land, there's a nice clear space between the body propellers and the concrete that you're landing on. So, let's land her, I think. I think the battery is going a little bit. She's not very much responding to my my controls very well, so let's bring her down. So once again using the singular landing button, and that's it, she's down. Really good fun, this guy. Okay, let's knock him off and let's take the Dream up. Okay, let's bind. Up and down. There we go, we are bound. So let's use one key takeoff and let's take up and see how she goes. So with this guy, you just push and hold with the one key takeoff. See? Now, This is what I was on about. When it comes to some of the other barometers, you saw how stable that Skytech was. And this guy, even though he's stable, don't get me wrong, you see he's jittering about the place. And not just that it requires a little bit of trim, it's proper little bit of jitter. Ah, both of them are remarkably quiet. And this guy especially. Very, very quiet quadcopter. Very light as well. Obviously doesn't have any proper landing sprigs, just has a couple of, just has 4 rather, rubber bungs on the underneath of him. Still, they do the trick, mind you. When you pull these guys' arms out as well from folding into actual quadcopter mode, they do click in. It gives you a real good sense that you are going to have a real stable flight. And that the quadcopter itself isn't going to come into any issues. Okay, and that gives you a real sense of security when you are flying as well. Okay, so yeah, all in all, I think once again this is a really good little copter. And for the price, you really can't go wrong. Honestly, I think personally. I haven't tested this copter yet on using a smart device as a transmitter. Oh, that's the battery. Okay, come on in, guy, bring it down. Okay then folks, let's see. Let's get a comparison on the both. So then, comparison. Which one's better? To be honest, they're both excellent flyers in my opinion. Both of them are used in this video on the transmitter. They weren't used using the smartphone app. So I found I had a lot of control with both of them. As for the main design and folding arms, I think the design of the Skytech I think is better. It looks a little bit meaner, it looks a little bit more aerodynamic, whereas the Dream, even though it's got a very nice sort of design and nice coloration to it, it does seem a little bit flat. So what about the arms? Well, these arms lock into place, so as soon as you go to push them down, they're automatically on a little spring which will make sure that they stay in, and then when you fold them out, they just click into place very, very nicely. I didn't find I had any issue with this flying on any of the videos that I've done. I think I've done 2 so far, this one and Saturday's one. And yeah, I found them to be very, very stable and to actually stay, whereas the other ones where I've flown, which have just kind of stayed in place, I found those to be a little bit fragile, but these work really well. Now on the Skytech, if you haven't seen the other video, this has got a little button. See, you've got 4 buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, and when you push the button in, see, you can move the arm, but only when you push the button in. So it does mean that you do have very stable flight from this as well, just because of these propeller arms are actually locked in place. Cameras, to be honest, I actually favour the camera on the Dream, just because you do have a nice sort of angle poise. You can pretty much make it any angle from a little bit up, if you want to get a bit of the sky, to right the way underneath the quadcopter. So you do have a lot of scope with this guy. With this guy, it just stays in place. See? You've got a little bit of an angle where you can move it, tiny bit, but to be honest with you, I've flown and I've tested in all 3 positions that these can actually click into, and it doesn't actually make that much of a difference at all. So the camera is much better on the Dream. Actually, for video quality, they're both very much same. As with a lot of toy grade quadcopters, the lenses aren't great, and therefore the video isn't going to be fantastic. But you know, it's passable. It's passable. It's just not excellent quality. Don't expect too much from it. As for landing gear, the landing gear on the Skytech, it wins hands down, because you actually have a landing gear, you actually have sprigs, whereas on the Dream all you have are these 4 little rubber bungs there, which, you know, they do the job, but obviously, as you can see, this is from 2 flights, and from 2 flights, and 2 of the bungs are totally ripped up, you know, ripped up there and ripped up there as well. So I do much prefer to have landing gear. So as for flight, okay, the important question, flight. Now, they are both very stable. the Skytech is a bit more stable because this barometer, I don't know if you, as I took off, this one does flutter a little bit until you actually get going. And I've tried all things to try and make that stop. I've tried a bit of trim just in case. I think it's actually just down to the barometer and just down to the air pressure that it senses. But that being said, they're both brilliant flyers, and whether you are a beginner or experienced, these are two very good copters for you. So with the Skytech, it has 2 speed modes, slow and extremely fast, and this one, the Dream, has 3 speed modes, slow, medium and fast. And to be honest, I like having 3 speed modes. I think it's a little bit better. 3rd speed mode can drain the battery rather quickly. 2nd, you're going to get about 6 minutes out of it, and if you just keep it on low, then you're going to be getting about 10 minutes of battery time. So battery time compared to both of them, you've got pretty much the same. You're looking at about 6 to 8 minutes and 8 to 10 minutes depending on which speed mode you set it at, and whether or not, of course, you're recording video or taking photos of it as well, because all that does come into play. So that being said, they are both excellent quadcopters. So there we are, folks. Thanks ever so much for watching and listening. I've been JD. You've been fantastic as always. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hello and welcome to all the new subscribers. So until next time, my friends, happy flying.